All right, thank you very much, Mark. Delighted to be with you today. I'm here to talk about legal tech essentials. Now, of course, we have a galaxy of fantastic speakers here, and I think my job is to bring things down to earth a little bit. What do we mean by legal tech at its core? What are we trying to achieve? So at the end of the day, we're talking about digital transformation. What do we actually mean by that? I'm sure you've seen this cartoon going around. We're talking about Zoom meetings, using Slack, using Yammer, being customer-centric in the cloud. What are we aiming for here? Why is it important? Well, at a very simple definition, digital transformation is how to use technology to remake a process so it becomes more efficient or effective. It's not about changing an existing service into a digital version, but improving it. And of course, we're talking about the Internet of Things, blockchain, big data, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence. Of course, COVID-19 has accelerated that, whether we liked it or not. I was sitting with the government Dubai Legal Affairs Department debating how should Dubai regulate virtual law firms. We never could have imagined that overnight, all law firms to some extent were forced to become virtual law firms. There's a great article from Richard Susskind that talks about the recovery from post-COVID-19, the 5 stages of recovery. Hopefully we are now for the most part in the emergence phase. But of course, this key quote comes into play here. Clients will have seen the great inefficiencies of conventional working practices and insist that the digital alternatives are maintained. As many have predicted, but in a far shorter period, great swaths of professional work will be automated and transformed by technology. So, we can easily get caught up with all the hype and the importance of technology. We understand that in the post-COVID world, we have to respond. We're all using remote working tools. People are thinking about redesigning their offices, but when it comes down to it, why do we need legal technology in the first place? I really like this quote from Ben Fote, which is, you must get your own house in order first. Don't just get a piece of legal technology. Understand your business first and foremost. What are the workflows that are coming through? What is your information system telling you? Once you understand that, only then can you even consider bringing in technology. Now, I'm here to present a different perspective. I think one of the dangers of legal technology seminars is that we can all get worked up with the future and excited. And when we look down upon the legal community, we find that there's a distinct lack of adoption of even basic technologies. A fantastic article that came out last month from Anders Spile about legal tech is overhyped. I believe that legal tech is largely redundant, may even counterproductive to the much needed digital transformation of the legal industry. The reasons are twofold. Firstly, legal tech is oversold and wrapped in the wrong packaging. Some people over-egg it. At the end of the day, sometimes when you actually look at what is really needed, we're talking about simple workflow tools, simply organizing the data we have internally, whether we're a law firm or in-house legal team, and making sense of that data. That's the first thing you need to do. And to be honest, a lot of that doesn't necessarily involve legal tech per se. That just involves simple digitization, simple digitalization. So I think this is a fantastic article that really emphasizes that to a large extent on the legal tech side, we've over-egged the pudding. We've oversold what it is that we do. There's a fantastic glossary by Alexander Hamilton, which talks about the hype of legal tech. So legal tech, he defines as a lot of resprayed SharePoint. So I'm giving Microsoft possibly more credit than they deserve. What we're saying here is that a lot of the tech products out there are simply workflow tools, how to organize, save and store information more effectively. So that's a good article to bring us back down to earth. We can get swept away with everything about artificial intelligence, but ultimately we're talking about digitizing our workflows. I mentioned the legal tech glossary. I would encourage you to have a look at that. It really does bring legal tech down to earth. So let's look at the first a few examples. Artificial intelligence, a term for when a computer does magic. General artificial intelligence refers to thinking computers. Narrow artificial intelligence refers to a limited capability, albeit one that is very useful. Distinctions of A that blur between the general and narrow are a good indication that you're dealing with bull. I didn't include the full word there. I think a lot of the times when you see these legal tech surveys, they ask in-house lawyers, are you planning on investing in artificial intelligence? That's too vague a question. What are we talking about here? Are we talking about algorithms that can look through specific clauses in contracts? Are we talking about case analytics? It's too broad a term and it's used too broadly and too vague. More often than not, I find myself at legal tech conferences where your average small to medium-sized law firm gets lost in all the hype. Blockchain. Most, if not all of these potential use cases, we better served by database. I'm not saying that's the case, but it's a tongue-in-cheek perspective to keep things in perspective there. This is one of my favorites. A website for use by clients of law firms to give them secure access to documents and information, still highly likely to win innovation awards if you are short of ideas and haven't recently procured an AI system. I'll talk a bit about this later. I think the client portal is the unsung hero of tech, simply because it's quite low level. In a recent survey of in-house lawyers in Singapore, in-house lawyers were asked, what technology would you like to see your law firms deploy? The first one was document automation. Number two is client portals. I'm surprised we don't see more client portals. It's very simple, but it does the job. So taking a step back from the hype, looking at COVID-19, what are we seeing? I'm glad to see that major industry associations have put out reports helping guide us through the technology landscape. So I would give a lot of credit to the International Chamber of Commerce for coming up with a guidance note talking about what tools lawyers can use. Talking about Microsoft Teams, Video Cloud, Skype for Business. If you'd like to look at what in-house lawyers are using, the Association of Corporate Counsel did a survey 2 months ago, and it showed that the most used tools would be Microsoft Teams, Skype for Business, WebEx, Zoom, no surprise there. I like this guidance note because it also talks about some of the tools being used in arbitration at the moment. Opus, TransPerfect being some of those. I have to give full credit. If we're talking about legal tech essentials, you must go to the International Bar Association website and look at the technology resources for arbitration practitioners. They actually list the different types of technology available out there. They suggest some of the key vendors, and it's a really useful resource. Strongly recommend you have a look at that. So let's get back to legal technology. What are we talking about here? We're talking about helping with traditionally practice management, document storage, billing, accounting, e-discovery tools. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, when we're talking about the digitalization of legal services, we've got a whole new ecosystem, which is why we are at this legal technology conference today. But once again, I still feel that most law firms, if you look at all the adoption reports out there, if you ask most average law firms, we're still really behind in adoption. And a lot of the times, we're not emphasizing enough simple digital transformation. So you hear all these statistics: 22% of a lawyer's job, 35% of a law clerk's job can be automated. 39% of jobs in the legal sector stand to be automated longer term. If you want to delve into that a bit more deeply, there's a really good report that came out from McKinsey this summer, which actually talks about what are the typical tasks undertaken by a lawyer, what percentage of those tasks are likely to be automated, which of them can be automated, and which are expected to be automated by 2030. So no surprise, if you look at the legal research side of things, most of that will be automated. If you look at high-level strategic advice, less so. But that's a good way of breaking down these statistics to see what we actually mean. But of course, as most of us are aware, we're talking about low-level commoditized work, that repetitive work, whether it's contract proofing, simple drafting, redacting, filing. These are all things that stand to be automated. So if my job is legal tech essentials, so I'm obviously going to be covering a lot of what people are talking about already, but this is an interesting legal tech market map to show you some of the core tools out there. So one of the questions you might find yourself asking is, there's all these thousands now legal tech providers out there. Where do I start? What should I have? Do I go for legal research, Thomson Reuters, LexisNexis? Should I have a practice management tool? I'll attempt to answer that question shortly. Here's another slide that shows you some of the key players here. Some of the ones you've probably heard of. If we're talking about contract management, you've probably heard of Clio, you've probably heard of Zari. If you've probably heard of contract management, you've probably heard of Contract Express. If you've heard of Practical Guidance, you've heard of Lexis PSL, some of the key players. When we're talking about artificial intelligence in the legal sector, in most cases, we're talking about sophisticated algorithms being used to assess documents and contracts, to look for conformity, to analyze legal decisions, looking through and predicting outcomes. So you're more looking at the right-hand side of this diagram. This is where the AI really shines. And I'm starting to step away from the pessimistic view of legal tech, more back towards the glory of the hype. And I'm, for everyone on this, all the speakers on this session will have read Richard Susskind's book, The Godfather of Legal Technology, if you will. A simple summary here, if I'm talking about essentials, for those that have not read the book, we're talking about routine tasks being automated. More jobs involve being broken down and achieving technologies, using technology solutions to achieve better outcomes. And of course, shifting legal services dispute resolution online. So we're going to talk about digitalization of legal services from a global perspective. I'll share some various perspectives on that. So I'm going to borrow or steal, if you will, from Robert, one of our key speakers here. I had the pleasure of attending Robert's session at the Building the Law Firm of the Future conference at the end of 2019. So Robert put some fantastic results looking at perceptions of digitalization of legal services. And you can see here, what are the key types of technologies people are more likely to invest in? And there's a difference, of course, between larger law firms and smaller law firms. So we can look at legal research, not too much of a difference, whether you're a small law firm or larger law firm, the willingness or propensity to invest is the same. You can see more of a gap there in other types of technologies. Obviously, if we asked this question today and we said tools to enable secure remote working, obviously we would be at 100%. We've all had to use remote working tools. You could see here difference between cloud tech, the willingness to invest in cloud technology, legal practice management. I would like to draw your attention once again to platforms to enhance legal service delivery to clients. I was chairing the Managing Partner Conference hosted by Al-Tamimi last week, and I actually used Robert's same categorization of legal tech here to ask managing partners around the world, what technology do you plan on investing in? Now, it's a much smaller sample than Robert's study, but what was interesting was that for the most part, the trends were mirrored. As I said, remote working tools, 100%, but when it comes to legal practice management, Ediscovery and other tools, the percentages were the same. The only one that perhaps was less than I expected was the platform to enhance legal service delivery to clients, client portals. I don't know why more law firms do not invest in client portals. Very relatively inexpensive. Start off just putting your newsletter there, maybe put some invoicing details, but it's a very low cost, low tech, but bang per buck. It's a really good thing to invest in. I don't know why that's something we don't see more of. So if we're talking about what in-house lawyers want, I always go back to the Association of Corporate Counsel Chief Legal Officers survey. They asked in-house lawyers around the world, what's keeping you awake at night? Compliance, data security, data protection. This, of course, is a recurring theme with in-house lawyers around the world. And in the wake of COVID-19, there's a real opportunity for law firms. When we had a managing partners survey with law firms around the Middle East recently, we asked them, where do you see biggest potential for growth in 2021? Now, of course, opportunistic M&A, litigation, there's various obvious categories there, but a lot of people talk about assisting clients in their digital transformation, helping them on that journey to improving their security, improving the data protection, improving their systems generally. But of course, it's all very well advising in-house lawyers to do this, but of course, law firms have to take that journey themselves. So I would encourage you to have a look at the ACC Chief Legal Officer survey. It talks about key things keeping Chief Legal Officers awake at night. Obviously, keeping up with regulation, compliance, data protection standards. And of course, they asked in-house lawyers, most people plan on using more artificial intelligence. Once again, why are you asking a generic question like that? Do you plan on using AI? That's too broad, too vague. Bring it back down to earth, be more specific. And when I say be more specific, what does that actually mean? This is my favorite question that was asked. In the past 12 months, have you done any of the following to increase your law department's efficiency in delivery of legal services? Redesign workflow processes, greater use of technology, project management. Now, those three are very much interlinked. The reality is you can't even begin to think about using technology unless you understand your workflow, unless you understand the pain points. That has to be the starting point. So what are law firms and in-house lawyers around the world using at the moment? Well, Law Society, of course, fantastic reports. I always promote these. If you haven't had a chance to read them, please do so. You can download those. Comparative analysis of legal technology in the UK and other jurisdictions. You could see here what are the most established areas. Contract management ripe for explosion, but for the most part, we still see that adoption is pretty low. A lot of people are taking a wait and see approach. This is not a COVID-19 heat map. This is in fact a legal technology heat map. For those, since I'm talking about the essentials here, where are some of the legal tech players around the world? I would say that this map is pretty accurate, although I think I would expect to see a little bit more heat on the Chinese side. I think there's some amazing things happening on the legal technology side in China that perhaps in the mainstream we're not aware of. But this gives you an idea that legal tech to a large extent is agnostic. Now, in my case, in the Middle East, a lot of people want Arabic legal tech. There's not a lot of providers out there that can handle Arabic effectively. You have App for Legal, you have Case Engines. These are a Lebanese and UAE legal tech startup that have recently been launched. But for the most part, if you're talking about English language, legal tech, it doesn't matter where you go to. Don't be afraid of embracing legal tech from another jurisdiction, although it's fair to say that the UK and the US are leaders in the field. But if we're talking about leaders, I have to talk about Singapore. I'm usually one of those annoying guys at a conference. I go, what should lawyers actually invest in? I know that you should understand your pain points, and from there, the answers will be revealed. But if you have to give someone a quick answer, what should I do? And Singapore is the only nation on earth that has actually tried to answer that question. So it all started off with a classic legal technology adoption report. Many of these have been done in the UK and elsewhere, but they went a step further. They actually created a Techcelerate for Law program, which you've heard about already. So what they've said is, what is the baseline category of legal tech adoption? What legal tech should you have as a basic level? Practice management systems, document management systems, online legal research systems. And what should you have as an advanced category? Document review software, document assembly software, Ediscovery, automated client solutions. And they've not only told you what you should have, they've identified vendors that you can contact. Not only have they stopped there, they've then said you can apply for funding to get technology from one of these vetted vendors. So this is someone sticking their neck out and saying, this is what law firms should have. These are the vendors they should get it from. Here's the funding to make that available. This is really sophisticated, advanced, and brave thinking in the new world of legal technology. So I encourage you to have a look at the Techcelerate for Law program, and you could learn more there. Let's take a step back. For me, once again, my theme is legal tech is often overhyped. Why do I say that? If you actually look at most legal tech adoption reports, whether it's the Law Society of Scotland and Wales, there are basic discrepancies here. A lot of firms simply haven't digitized their workflows yet. A lot of law firms are still taking a wait and see approach. Yes, the bigger international law firms are using e-discovery tools, they're using more sophisticated tools, but what about medium, smaller law firms? I like the Law Society of Scotland report because it actually illustrates to what extent are lawyers even comfortable doing things online, filing motions online. So are people using tablets? So it actually goes down at a granular level, a grassroots level, when it talks about tech proficiency. So I like that report. And of course, all credit to Christina, one of the key speakers here for the Law Tech Adoption Research Report. This is a fantastic report, compulsory reading for anyone interested in legal technology. It talks about key growth areas, what are the most established tech that's being used today. So this is a fantastic report. I would encourage everyone to read that in detail. As a sister to that report, LexisNexis published a technology report looking at the adoption of legal tech within in-house legal teams. And this comes back down to my point about the hype. 60% of GCs believe that technology has increased their efficiency. That means 40% do not believe that technology has increased their efficiency. Where did we as tech providers go wrong? Low usage, 2 in 3 lack the understanding, budget is a barrier. This type of feedback is mirrored in Singapore and other jurisdictions. There's an expectation gap. The legal tech providers have oversold and overpackaged their wares. People aren't using the tech enough. So as legal technology providers, we have to accept some responsibility there. And of course, law firms have a role to play when it comes to in-house lawyers. 75% of GCs expect technology gains to be transferred. 45% expect lawyers to advise them on what tech to use. The challenge for in-house lawyers is they don't know where to start more often than not. But this report gives you an idea of some of the areas people are investing in. If you see red and orange, that means more of that tech is being used. If you see white space, that means less. So legal research, most in-house lawyers using legal research. E-discovery, not so much. That makes sense. E-discovery is very expensive. Legal tech tends to be used by bigger law firms. The only surprise here is I would expect to see more document automation, e-signature, and proofreading within in-house legal teams. I expect if you did that survey today, the numbers would be higher. And of course, here are some of the key players in this space. So once again, get your own house in order first. Understand where the workflows come from. Now, most international law firms have responded to the challenge of helping in-house lawyers with those commoditized, that low-level repetitive work. I've quoted Reed Smith here because I think that quote at the bottom of the screen summarizes where law firms need to be. We're combining data insights with operational experts, blending data and human intelligence to redefine value. I think that encapsulates where we're going in a really nice way. So how do you get started? Start from the position of your clients, map out client needs and expectations. Firm-wide process improvement, engineering are the most important steps. Now, of course, on this conference today, we have a number of fantastic consultants that can help you on that journey. But to be honest, you can get started yourself. Actually look at your workflows, understand how you guys collaborate, how you share information, and embrace that idea that efficiency is a good thing for you and your clients. There's a fantastic checklist for purchasing law firm software from the American Bar Association. Now, most of this is, it's common sense, conduct a self-assessment, etc. I've just included the first step here. You can read it online at your leisure from the American Bar, but it's a checklist. What do we use currently? How do we work together? What are our absolute necessities? So for me, answering that question, what should I be doing? What are the essentials of legal tech? First is embrace the mindset that efficiency is a good thing, that there are quick wins to be had. So understand your workflows, but also what tech do you currently have? I'm a big fan of using existing technology. Why don't people use the rules function on Microsoft Outlook to save you time? If you don't have the luxury of a personal assistant, this will file most of your emails. If you have an email come from your most important client, it goes into one folder. If you're working on a particular project, you forward those emails automatically. Use the tech you have already. Microsoft Teams. Most people don't know you can integrate it with emails. Most people don't know that you can pin important chats to the top. Most of us just click and join a meeting. We don't know all the hidden functionality within Microsoft Teams. Most lawyers do not use Word to its full potential. If you can't afford a contract automation tool, there's a lot you can do in Word. Instead of clicking find and replace, you can automate that. Are we using Excel to its full capabilities? So what I'm saying is we should give training sessions on using the tech we have. Website monitoring software. If you can't afford LexisNexis or Westlaw, use website monitoring software to tell you if there's a change to any regulatory website. Under no circumstance should paralegals, junior associates wasting time going on a website to look for an update. These tools are free or very low cost. So quick wins would include using the rules function, leveraging the full functionality of SharePoint or Office, using Google Calendar, using voice recognition dictation software. It's come a long way. You have to get used to saying, dear Bob, I was thinking about our conversation. Here's some points. Number one, blah, blah, blah. Number two, blah, blah, blah. There's apps you can use that can help you. So you can do scans at home using iScan or TurboScan, website monitoring, multiple screens, leverage the full functionality of LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, etc. So for me, start off identifying your pain points. Use the legal tech you have already, and then don't be intimidated. Don't get swept up with the hype. There's some fantastic legal tech out there, but for a lot of the time, I'm going to admit to it, like other legal tech providers, we've oversold it. Let's just start with basic digital transformation first, and then we can go at a higher level. So with that, I will open the floor to questions. So I'll read through these, unless Natasha, you want to read them for me?
It's absolutely up to you. You can go for it if you like.
All right, thank you. How do you think as fresh law graduates can be involved in technology? How to spot employment opportunities in tech? That's a good question. Well, look, some law firms have actually, Clifford Chance has done as part of the graduate recruitment scheme, they have a legal tech section for this. So they're actually embracing that. If you go to Eversheds and look at their recruitment page, a third of the roles are for technology related. So document automation assistant, specialists like that. So I would say for fresh law graduates to become involved in technology, really follow the blogs out there, read these newspapers. All this information is currently available. So find a blog that you like, get involved, intern at one of these legal tech companies while you're at the university perhaps. But to be honest, we shouldn't have a big gap between legal tech and law firms. We're all part of the same ecosystem. Law firms are now starting to hire technology specialists, operational specialists, project management specialists in the law firms. Mentioned Ediscovery is expensive, but isn't that only because we end up looking at expensive tools in the market, whereas if we use existing technology, we can achieve transformation at a very low costs? That's actually very true, which goes back to my earlier point about over-egging it. A lot of the tasks that you have can be achieved with existing technology. If we think about it, what is Ediscovery doing? It's helping us find the smoking gun. It's letting us tag certain documents or find which documents I should focus on. So you might narrow down 500,000 documents to 1,000 or 500. A lot of this can be done with existing tools because we're essentially using algorithms. We're essentially using keyword search to categorize and organize information in more manageable way. So that's true. What else? Sir, your presentation is excellent. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm happy to share all these with people. What impact, in your view, GPT-3 can impact document review and contract management? Well, I'm not entirely sure. But one thing I'll say about contract management is, if you saw my earlier slide, when we talk about contract management, what are we actually talking about? There's different categories. You could say that we have contract proofreading, perhaps. We have contract drafting. We have contract management, and we have contract analytics. So if you're looking at those 4 different categories of working with contracts, I would say we're probably talking more about the impact on contract analytics and contract management. So with contract drafting, I don't see that much of an impact, to be honest. How would you advise upcoming legal tech startups? Well, look, the problem with legal tech startups is that there's so many now. There's over 1,000 legal tech startups out there. So what should you do? I think we have to keep it more simple. To be honest, I was in a demo a little bit earlier with a legal tech provider I really respect, but he spent a good 45 minutes selling the dream. It was too much. You have to focus on what are the core essential needs of a law firm, and sometimes those bells and whistles aren't really needed. What's the core need here? So I think keep the message simple. Don't promise the world. Keep the messaging quite straightforward. Really understand the pain points of the law firm. So I think to understand those pain points, ask some simple questions. What are your, which industry are some of your key clients located in? How do you guys work? How many of you are on the roads, etc. Okay, thank you. Final one. I think we have more. I appreciate that. Do you have any particular favorites when it comes to blogs? Do you know what? There's quite a few. I really like Alex Hamilton's Legal Tech Glossary. I think that's brilliant. And Alex Hamilton is really good. I think I like Law Geeks as a conference. It's really good. Law in a Box is really good. You know, I'll actually put a list together of the ones that I like. But I think a good starting point is look at all the reports. Look at the Singapore Legal Tech Adoption Report. Look at the UK Adoption Report. The American Bar Association Adoption Report is actually sold for a fee. I don't know why that's not publicly available, but you can read the executive summary of that. That's available there. So good luck on your journey. I hope I haven't gone at too basic a level, but I really appreciate it, and I look forward to the